Hi everyone, I'm Evangeline here at eTrailer. Today we have the Hollywood Racks Crosstrack 2 bike rack. This specific one has the 2-inch shank that fits into the hitch receiver of our 2021 Kia Sedona. If you are looking for a good middle-of-the-road priced bike rack that has a good amount of weight capacity and is a dual wheel mount rack, meaning it's easier to load and unload your bikes, well, that's where the Crosstrack comes in handy. Now, there are some things with this bike rack, though, that because of the Sedona make it a little trickier. One of those things is going to be the tilt-away. Now, I've installed a bunch of different bike racks on the Sedona, and may I just say this is a common issue. Because the hitch is a bit recessed, and because the hatch door is a bit large, we've always been struggling with clearance with our handlebars. Now, this is still a good amount of space. I'm still able to reach into the hatch and cargo area, grab even my larger items. But if I wanted to fully open up the hatch door, I would have to take the bikes off. Now, this is just something I've seen on pretty much any bike rack. Some bike racks that have, let's say, a swing away feature do give you a bit more clearance, just something to keep in mind. With that being said, everything else looks great. Our distance from our handlebars to our window looks good. The way our bike is loaded on there looks good. This is held in by the front and the rear wheels. You have a 66-pound weight capacity per bike, so even your heftier electric bikes are fine. Now, when you want to take your bike off, what you do is you access things over by this lever. So what I do is I just press the lever on both sides just to make sure that everything is easy to push out, just like that. 1 and 2. Our arms go all the way down to the ground, and this way, all I need to do is just ramp the bike down. So imagine if you had an electric bike, maybe you have a heavy motor in the hub. This movement over here makes it a little bit easier because then you can just slowly work your way where the bike comes off of the vehicle. Now I'm going to put this over to the side so we can talk about those trays. Notice that front wheel chock up there. Now that's going to give you some support for your wheel. That way you get a bit of stability driving down the road. And you do see the little different grooves there on the chock, and that's for different tire widths. So whether you have a thin road bike tire or you have a fat tire of up to 4 inches wide, having those grooves are helpful on the tray because then you can accommodate those different bikes. Notice how it ratchets in like that. That's going to be what secures your bike tires. Now, this is going to be the 2-bike version, meaning it's going to take a little bit more space compared to the single version that is available from Hollywood Racks here at eTrailer. If you take a measurement from the bumper to the end of the rack, this sits at 34 inches of length. So if you have, let's say, a small garage, you park into a tight spot, I know the Sedona does take up a little bit of extra room, so that is something to be mindful of. The next measurement that we have to think about, though, is ground clearance. So when I measure from the tray to the ground, this sits at, let's see, about 20 inches of height. Now that's how high you're going to have to get your bike up and onto the rack. The next measurement, though, is going to be from the bike rack to the ground. Here it's about 18 inches. Compare that to the shank right over there. And that's going to sit at about 9 inches off the ground. So there is a decent shank rise, meaning your bike sit a bit higher up, which is good for steep inclines because when your front goes up, your back goes down and you want to make sure you're not hitting the ground. So this is some pretty good measurements, especially since our hitch receiver is so low to the ground. We can also just press this lever or pull the lever and then bring the bike rack up to the vehicle. There's the first position. And you can see here that you are able to open up that door with it in the first position. And then there's the second position. Right there, that comes up against the vehicle. And taking some measurements here, if you measure from the bumper, this time the end of the bike rack is about 10 inches away, so big difference compared to when it was folded down. You do want to be mindful that you may have a little bit of movement of the arms on this rack. So a way to make sure this doesn't come up is just to make sure this is fully clicked in the stored position. If you're in between different spots, then you may have more travel than you would like. So having it up like this is how you'll have it when you're driving around town, how other vehicles and cars will see you. Here we have full visibility of our rear window and our taillights, but our license plate and backup camera are covered. Our backup camera sits right over here where the tray is, so you're not going to be able to see much out of that. I do recommend relying on your rear windows or side windows and your rear window in order to see if there's anything behind you. With that being said, we did install this 2-inch hitch receiver on our Kia Sedona. This means if you don't have a hitch receiver, you can get a custom fit one here on our website. We have the anti-rattle pin on the 2-inch shank, so there's 0 tools required to tighten this down. This bike rack is also available in the 1.25" with a 2-inch adapter version if you prefer an anti-rattle bolt style for securing your bike rack. It is going to work the exact same way though, where you still get that 66-pound weight capacity per bike, which is pretty impressive. So with all that being said, if you are looking for options for your heavier bikes and maybe you need a little bit more weight capacity, you may want to check out the Rocky Mounts Gigawatt. That one has an 80-pound weight capacity, which is pretty good, and it has a ramp included with that rack. The downside or the difference with the Gigawatt compared to the Hollywood Racks Crosstrack is the Gigawatt is going to be a little bit pricier, and it's a front wheel mount style bike rack versus this where it's just 2 arms and that's it. The Crosstrack makes it a lot faster for getting your bike on and then off of the bike rack, plus that's a really good middle of the road price point. So it does depend on what your priorities are for carrying your bikes. This is still a solid option for our vehicle here. And what you saw was the Hollywood Racks Crosstrack 2-bike carrier on the 2021 Kia Sedona.